Hi, and welcome back to our channel, Channeling by Penny and Sarah. I'm Penny Dix, astrologer and channeler, and with me, as usual, is my partner in crime, Sarah Sands Smith. And Sarah is going to tell us what we're going to be talking about tonight on the couch, because tonight we decided it was time to be on the sofa. Rather than always outdoors. But we are going to be doing some more outdoor locations. But tonight, we're back on the sofa. So what are we going to discuss tonight?
Well, as we promised everyone last week, bilocation, astral projection and remote viewing are on the agenda.
Okay.
And so, bilocation.
Okay.
What
right.
is bilocation?
What is bilocation?
Well, as bilocation, as opposed to
biolocation, which is what I was calling it,
means the ability to be in two places at the same time. And we actually have a really personal example of this, which we'll give you in a moment. We have discussed it before, but we'll go into it in a little more detail, because also we're going to be talking about the science which underpins all these interesting topics. So do you want to tell the story, Penny? Because it happened to you, although I was involved. You were on the receiving end of my bilocation.
Bilocation, not biolocation. Anyway, I've got it right now. So what was happening was I was waiting here with another friend for Sarah to arrive. And Sarah was going to be bringing round a cat carrier, a big kind of transport one of the ones that you use to go on flights. So it's a big clattery thing. So I knew roughly what it was going to look like and sound like. And that is relevant. So I'm sitting here with my other friend, because I have got more than two friends. Well, maybe three.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Imaginary friends.
I've got plenty of those. Anyway, so we're sitting here and it's lunchtime and I heard the door open, the front door open, and I sort of instantly looked like this because I thought, that's funny. Who's got a key to the apartment? And I'm expecting Sarah, but she hasn't got a key. How's she been able to get in? And then I thought, because it sounded like Sarah arriving, so it sounded like the front door opening and then closing, and I could hear the clatter of this cat carrier that she was going to bring round for me, because we were endeavouring at this point to get my pussycats to the vet. So we hear the door open, so does my friend, we hear the clattering of this cat carrier, and my brain was trying to explain it to myself and reason it, because I'm thinking, how can Sarah get in if she doesn't have a key? And so then I just randomly kind of tried to justify it to myself by thinking, she's bumped into my neighbour who has a key, and for some reason they're carrying it and they've let her in, which is kind of bizarre because they probably wouldn't do that. So I called out, hi Sarah, and my friend as well that was here looked around, said, waited for her, and we waited for her to appear, and she didn't. So I said, oh, you okay? So I get up and I walk down the corridor. No Sarah, no cat carrier, front door shut. I actually walked down to the other end of my apartment, which is where the bedrooms are, and thought, well, why would she come down here? No Sarah, no cat carrier. Came back into the room and said to my friend, that's weird. You heard it, didn't you? You heard her arrive. And my friend said, yeah, I heard that, how strange, what's going on? And then a few minutes later, the front door buzzer went, and I went to the intercom. It was Sarah, and I let her in. And when she came in, do you want to take over the story at this point?
Yes. I mean, I came in and I was sort of being stared at, and the energy, the atmosphere was really weird. And I thought, gosh, I've walked in and they've been talking about me or something. And it just felt really strange. And Nothing was said. We went and had lunch, and then later on they told me what happened. And it was, I think even by then, a couple of hours later, you'd not actually rationalised
No.
what had happened.
No.
So I guess the question is, what did happen? You know, I'm a really ordinary, boring, quite limited individual.
I don't think you're boring.
Well, I've been told I am, so... why would this be happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
Is it my energy arrived before
Ahead of
me?
you.
Yeah, did it arrive a few minutes ahead of me? I
So
don't know.
what research have you done on this? Because you've done a little bit of sort of background work too.
I have, yes. But I mean, before we go into that, I mean, we had a couple of other experiences. This wasn't an isolated incident, was it?
Yes.
So you heard the front door go.
Yes.
And you felt like somebody came in because you'd been saying you weren't feeling very well.
That's right. I was in bed.
Yeah, and you were in bed. And you felt like somebody came in,
that's right.
checked on you,
Yeah.
and left.
And it was just a very weird feeling. And so, again, I was kind of thinking, if I imagined that, it was when my back was very bad before I had back surgery. So we're going back, what, about 18 months? Nearly 2
like
years, probably. Well, not quite, 18 months.
Yeah, it was September
2023.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was the third experience, which actually on this occasion I was aware of, that I had actually, you know, I was still physically in my house, but I was aware that I had come here, I had come in, because by that point you had given me a key.
That's right.
For emergencies and
looking after the cats.
And so you didn't have to actually come and open the door to me. It saved you having to walk down a long corridor. And I was aware that I had actually come into the apartment, just checked on you, because you hadn't been feeling well, saw that you were sleeping peacefully, the cats were okay and everything, and then left again.
Yeah.
So...
And I didn't hear that one, but that was your experience of it.
That was my experience of it. So...
And that is kind of like, you see, that actually is almost like links in with the other topics we've got of astral projection and remote viewing, which I think are very interlinked. But you did a little bit of research, didn't you, on the background of bilocation?
I did. And I mean, the interesting thing about bilocation is that it's historically, it's been linked to various sorts of cultures, religions. It's not sort of exclusively, sort of an esoteric topic. I mean, there were examples of Pythagoras, who was seen in Italy, in Rome and Sicily simultaneously, which is really interesting. It's also linked to Catholicism. There's several examples of Catholic saints who were seen in different places at different times.
Is it Padre Pio?
One of the most famous ones is a Capuchin friar in the 20th century called Padre Pio, who became Saint Pio, and he actually was seen conducting mass in one place whilst giving spiritual advice in another place simultaneously. And that wasn't an isolated incident, that was something that happened quite frequently. And then there's lots of examples in mysticism of Indian gurus, and you've got a story about that, haven't you?
Yes, because I had a friend who used to go to India a lot, and she was a devotee of an Indian guru named Sai Baba, and he apparently was able to manifest objects just kind of out of thin air. They would be kind of like a gold ring or anything. It was just he was able to manifest. And there is this story that she told me, that someone had come to him and said, oh, well, you know, if you're so good at manifesting, if you're able to do all of this, how about a Louis Vuitton handbag then? And he kind of smiled and said, okay, if that's what you would like, I'll go and get one. And all he did was just turn behind him and pull out from the back of, sort of under his robes, a Louis Vuitton handbag. And she was like, that's weird. Now, the side to the story which is interesting is that simultaneously, apparently in Paris, in France, he was seen going into a Louis Vuitton shop in the centre of Paris asking for a Louis Vuitton handbag, paying for it with a credit card, so all above board, and then saying thank you. So the shop assistant was able to verify the fact that he was actually in Paris at that moment buying this Louis Vuitton handbag, and then he left the shop and was never seen again. And that is just one of the many stories apparently about this particular Indian guru, Sai Baba, who was able to bilocate and be seen in several places at once. And I believe that there are other Indian gurus that have this ability. And did you find out anything else about it, or do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just really interesting that, you know, this sort of link to Catholicism, it's believed to be a manifestation of divine grace. So
Okay.
it sort of links into the concept that God is everywhere, he's within us, he is all around us.
Omnipresent.
Yes, omnipresent. So I guess that's some people's definition of it, that it is, you know, a sort of manifestation in a sense. But then I think that it's really interesting that it's not totally linked purely to religion, that a lot of other people, you know, who have other sorts of sets of beliefs have also had that experience. So,
Like
I mean,
yourself.
yeah. And I think, you know, we're really interested to hear from any of you that may have had a similar experience or who know of somebody who's had a similar experience, because we'd love to hear about them, because, you know, we obviously had our particular experiences, and then we investigated a little bit more and thought, oh, this might be a topic that we can talk about, and you know, it may be something that other people have experienced as well, and you know, just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that if we kind of then fly forwards into the 21st century, which of course is where we're all living, is that the kind of astrology of the moment of the planet Pluto that is the planet of transition and of enormous change, moving into the sign of Aquarius, which is very much about these kind of sense of higher frequencies, higher vibrations, the raising of consciousness to a much greater level of awareness. It kind of sort of underpins, before we even get into the scientific, or shall we say the physics side of the science that underpins these kind of experiences, which I'm going to come to a little bit more at the end, but I just wanted to kind of introduce it at this point, because I think the three topics we're talking about today, which is bilocation, astral projection and remote viewing, are all actually really the same thing in a very similar way. They're all kind of interlinked, but you have had lots of experiences of astral projection. So perhaps you would like to explain that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's also known as astral travel, soul journeys, spiritual travel, out of body experiences, out of body journeys. You know, it's known as lots of different things. But my personal experiences started as a child. I would have very, very vivid experiences where I would actually be feeling that I was out of my own body. Sometimes I would actually be standing by my bed, looking down at my body in my bed. And I would be flying. I'd literally be flying through the air in a very strange way, kind of standing upright and just travelling, travelling over fields, travelling around department stores, looking what was in department stores.
How fun.
I know. I mean, I remember one as a child. I was going round Harrods.
Oh, no.
Yes. Which, for anyone who doesn't know what Harrods is, because there might be people, might there?
Very nice department store in Knightsbridge in London.
Exactly, and it sells just everything you can imagine. I mean, it was. I remember going there as a child, and they actually had a lion in the pet shop.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Yeah, I was quite taken aback by that.
Yeah.
That was not great. But it. You know, I had these experiences where I was actually sort of, you know, flying through the air, journeying many, many miles in a night. And then I just come back to bed and carry on as normal and go back to sleep. Quite often I had experiences where I would go somewhere that I'd never been before. And then, I don't know, a year later or something like that, I would go there and I'd be, okay, I know where everything is because I've been here before. So that was...
Is that like a kind of deja vu experience? Did you experience it like that? Or was it really a knowing of, I've been here before?
Yeah, it was a knowing I've been here before. And I mean, you know, that links into a past life experience that I had as well, where I visited Pompeii in Italy, where obviously the city had been buried under the volcanic ash from Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot more of it was open to the public in those days. There's far less open now, unfortunately. But I remember going there and thinking, oh, I've been here before. But I was 7 years old. I had never been there before. But I could remember saying, oh, yeah, I know the amphitheatre's down here. And the guide was looking really weirdly, thinking, gosh, what a freaky little child. Oh, she's a bit creepy. And then I was going, oh, yes, the baths are down here. People were just looking and sort of like moving further away from me and thinking, what a strange child.
Giving you a wide berth.
Yes. And then there was I think it might have been the baths or somewhere where there were these erotic drawings which children weren't allowed to go in and see. You know, children had to wait outside. And I remember sort of laughing and going, oh, I know what's in there. There's pictures you don't want children to see. And the guide by this point was completely freaked out and was thinking, gosh, I really want to get this over with quickly. But I knew where everything was.
Wow, that's amazing. Have you ever actually had a past life regression done for you where you have gone back to Pompeii?
I have. So I lived there, and I also lived in Rome in about 65 AD as a persecuted Christian who had to hide away from soldiers coming to get the Christians. And I had to flee, and I hid in a cellar. And eventually I joined with a group of people who were also fleeing, and we got on this big wooden boat and ended up in Sicily.
So almost kind of, it's almost like you've been around the area where you're currently living.
Yes. Because
here we are in Malta and Gozo, and it's just quite interesting that this is where you find yourself.
I know. There does seem to be an affinity with the Mediterranean region, but you know, I want to do more past life regressions and explore.
Because I wonder if Malta and
areas.
Gozo are somewhere in your past life experience.
Potentially. So, you know, in this sort of astral projection scenario, maybe there is an element of past life experiences, but also I've been having a lot of sort of astral travel of late with Blue Man.
Oh yes, tell us that.
Yeah, so it's very tiring. I can tell you that it's very tiring. So at night, Blue Man will appear as he normally does, and you know, sometimes we're sitting there, we're talking about politics, he's making predictions, he's talking about my life, he's talking about personal things. Sometimes Penny will say, can you find out what Blue Man thinks about this? You know, does he think, oh, I should move back to the UK or something like that? So we might have a chat about that. And sometimes he goes, oh, let's go and do something. And I sort of go, oh God, you know, oh no. And we end up going to places like Singapore. And we actually just, we kind of travel there, you know, we're like, boom, suddenly we're in Singapore. You can feel the humidity, you can see the palm trees. We go and do things like we go on the little train on Sentosa Island and things like that. And we go to Raffles and we go around the shopping centre and things like that. And then I'm exhausted the next day.
Wow.
Absolutely exhausted, because it is literally like I have
actually been there.
Yeah, it's like I have actually done that travelling, and I've done all of that, and the time zone change and everything. And you know, sometimes we go quite local. I mean, a few weeks ago we went to Berlin, which I didn't like because it was very cold, and I was not happy.
Why
about
Berlin?
That. I have no idea. I don't know, but we were just walking around looking at, you know, all the sights and things. And, well, I think sometimes we go to places he wants to explore with me. So, and sometimes it might just be something simple, like we go to the harbour at Valletta or something, which is much easier, much closer. But you know, I can actually feel. I'm very conscious of the temperatures and things like that. And there are occasions when I've woken up in the morning and I have a bruise on me or something. Because during the experience, I actually bumped into something and I wake up with a bruise on my arm or something like that. And it's not that I've got up in the night in my house and walked into something, because I actually don't tend to kind of get up and wander around at night or anything. So I've never sleepwalked, and I tend to sort of, I don't get up to go to the loo in the night or something. I just tend to sleep straight through, apart from romance interruptions. So it's not something like that has happened. I'm very conscious that during the experience, I did something like I was in a crowd and people bumped into me or something like that. And I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, my arm's a bit sore and there's a bruise on there or something. So, so how we explain that, I'm not entirely sure, but...
Extraordinary. So, I mean, if any of you have had experiences similar, again, please let us know in the chat, because, I think it's really important that Sarah is standing up and talking about these things, because it helps to normalize things that can sometimes feel a little bit freaky for people, that they feel, there's something wrong with me, or
It's a bit isolated, I think, in some respects, because I think as a child I was having these experiences and nobody talked about them at all. And if I did try and talk to somebody about it, they just go, oh, it's your imagination, or, you're a bit weird. And I think that more people are speaking about these types of experiences now. And, I'm sort of standing up and sharing them with people. So if anyone else wants to talk about similar things, then, please do. We'd love to hear from you. So, drop us a message in the comments, or, just let us know. And we would love to hear about, whether people have had similar experiences.
Yeah. And that, I think, leads us into sort of remote viewing, because this is something that has always fascinated me. And when we were doing our kind of preparation production talk, that sounds terribly grand, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it shows that we do prepare some of the things we talk about. We're not completely improvising.
No, not always, but sometimes. We are. But I felt that remote viewing was very relevant with the subject of biolocation and of astral projection, because in a sense they're all really very kind of closely linked, because they're all about consciousness, if you like, leaving the body and being able to project itself to another location, which of course is what remote viewing is about. Because remote viewing is something that has been used by a lot of the kind of sort of government agencies, let's call it that, without getting into too deep water. Intelligence services, yes, intelligence agencies. And they've used it apparently over the years in an ability. They found certain people who had the ability to be given coordinates of, say, a military installation in a country that was let's call it an unfriendly country, an unfriendly opposition country. They would be able to give them the sort of coordinates, the latitude and longitude, and these remote viewers are able to, with their mind's eye, go to the location, and they would describe what they see, how they feel, what the maybe weather's like, does the energy feel good, neutral, bad, all sorts of things they were able to somehow pick up. And what they were finding or experiencing, which is why they went on experimenting with this method for quite a long time, was that it seemed to be extraordinarily accurate. Now, I guess nowadays, they don't really, remote viewers have probably become a bit redundant, because there are satellites and drones and all sorts of things that can instantly go and take pictures of the same places that we used to use remote viewers for.
Well, I suppose actually getting inside a building, inside a room.
True.
You know,
yes, that's a bit
satellites
different.
and drones can't do
No,
that. So I think that I suspect that remote viewing is used for that kind of purpose.
And I think it's very covert, because in the research I did, it was that really it's not used anymore, which means of course it is. Because, you know, if you get a statement saying we don't do this, then actually we do. And I think that one of the things I found out is the altered state of mind that you have to, as the remote viewer, kind of tune yourself into. Now, for me, this links in very much with the astrology of where we find ourselves now. Because astrologically, Pluto, the planet of transition and transformation, change of the most extraordinary kind of discoveries, if you like, has moved into the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is the sign that represents higher consciousness, advances in technology, anything that kind of can use the human mind to do things such as remote viewing or bilocation or astral projection, because I think in many ways they're one and the same thing. Now, we came up with an idea when we were talking about this, as I kind of went through discussing it, and I'm just trying to find where I wrote it down, and of course I can't find it now, but it's here somewhere. Hold on a minute, I'm nearly there.
Well, basically we were discussing about the possibility of doing something a bit different to past life regression.
Yes, that was it.
So
yes.
We were calling it
future life progression, remote timelines, remote viewing down timelines of future life progression, but using hypnotherapy as the method to get onto the timeline that you wish to actually get onto. So what I was suggesting to Sarah is that it would be about suggesting to me in a hypnotic state to go forward down our current timeline to, say, February the 24th, and to describe what I see around me, where I'm living, what is happening to me at the moment, what has been happening, what is going on in the news, what is unfolding in my life. Is there anything unusual that is happening? And I don't know if anyone's actually ever attempted to do this, but I feel really excited about the prospect of doing it.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd sort of try and give it a go, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to pick a date, a kind of random date. We will do a session. So I will take Penny to that date, see what she can see. We will record it all for you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wait for that date to come and match up and see whether there is a correlation, whether anything or everything that she's talked about has occurred. So this is a bit of an experiment. So bear with us on this. But you know, we will video it all, and then we will video our conclusions, and then we will post it out to you.
Absolutely.
So you can see. Another thing that we were talking about doing is that Penny is also going to submit to a past life regression, so you can see how that works as well. So we thought it's not going to be a lengthy session like some sessions can be, an hour to 2 hours. We're going to do quite a brief one where she will just experience one lifetime. But that we also thought you might be interested in seeing how that works.
So we've actually got some new technology arriving next week in the form of little radio mics, which will work much better when we're outside videoing, and also when we're doing the hypnotherapy session, because my voice might be different, it will hopefully pick up the content of what I'm saying under the in the hypnotic state, in the hypnotic condition.
We might have to edit though if you swear, because
Oh my goodness, yes, because
one
we
of her
can't have
past
that.
lives, she was quite foul-mouthed. So
Yes, yes.
we might not be able to
yes.
post that, or we'll have to bleep bits
Bleep
out.
bits out, yes. So, so an interesting experiment, but I really like this idea of timelines, of looking down various times. Supposing there were 3 things you wanted to do, 3 directions you wanted to go, but you're not quite sure which one you should follow, then you could, in a hypnotic state, go down each timeline and look at what will unfold for you from your perspective at a date down that you've achieved this, that you have moved to, I don't know, Bangkok. Let's just use that as a frame of reference. What is your life like? What does it feel like living there? Has it worked out for you? Are you happy you have made this move? And as I say, I don't know if anyone does this, but we just thought it sounded like a pretty cool thing to do. And maybe at this point it's a good time to talk about just briefly the underpinning science to the ideas that we've been talking about today, because it reminded me of what is known as Bell's theorem. And this was an experiment that was, and I'm going to be very brief about this. Sarah asked me to be very brief because she didn't want people to fall asleep or switch off.
Because it is quite scientific, and if you're not a physicist or something, and I'm certainly not, I was thrown out of physics class at about the age of 12 because I sort of tried to argue about the different concepts that they said existed, and I was, yeah, but what if? And they went, there's no what if. So, I was sort of slightly falling asleep during the very long explanation, so I said, please
keep it concise. But the interesting thing is, your what ifs were probably the questions that are asked now in modern physics, and when they look at the whole idea of quantum physics, which I have to say I'm in no way an expert, but there was this experiment done by this professor, and it's called Bell's theorem. And basically, it's the concept that you have a particle, the particle is divided into 2, and this is very basic explanation. One particle is kept in, let's say, London. The other particle is in New York. And the observations of each particle, the half that belong to the other, the particle would respond to whatever was happening to its other half millions, thousands of miles away. Yes, New York is not millions of miles away, thousands of miles away. So they called this kind of like quantum entanglement. Now, this just leads me on to just briefly explaining how things like bilocation, astral projection, and remote viewing work. You have to be on the same frequency as that with which you wish to observe. So with our idea of a timeline future viewing, then you have to tune into that idea, that frequency, because if we operate on the assumption that everything exists at once anyway, then actually everything is available to us in the present, in the now. So quantum entanglement also is one of the things that apparently is a result of quantum entanglement is anyone and everyone that you've ever physically touched in your life. And you think of the people you might be behind in a queue at the post office, or someone who pushes by you in a supermarket, that you become intrinsically quantumly entangled with the energy of that person. So that is almost like thousands upon thousands of other people that we are connected to on a kind of interpsychic kind of web, a sort of network of entanglement that connects everything. Now, going back to what were we saying this earlier about the universe and the kind of with the Catholic idea of the omnipresence of the divine. In a sense, they're right, because the divine energy, the divine spark that represents what it is, the divine mind, is actually everywhere and everything all at once. And so it would make sense that we can leap forward, leap sideways, leap backwards, and connect with a different part of this omnipresent divine energy with which we are all part of, to have the ability to find out information such as we're suggesting by going down particular timelines to help you make a decision about something. How will my life be if I follow a career to be a doctor? How will my life be if I follow this career to be a teacher, etc.? So is there anything you'd like to sort of add to that before we start to wind things down today?
No, I mean, I just think that the whole sort of concept of that entanglement we were talking about earlier, quite often we will actually end up messaging each other at the same time, because we'll have thought about something that we need to say. And quite often we send each other a message that's the same thing, and they cross over, don't they? And I had a really strange experience yesterday. We were in another village, and there's a famous
you can say
comedian.
his name. You can say his name.
No, I'll keep it confidential,
okay.
Because he's a very private person.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
There's a famous person who lives on Gozo, or has a home here, and comes part of the year. And I was saying, oh, I must take a photo of where he lives just to show my friend, who's Scottish. And I sent her the photo, and she bounced back straight away saying, oh my goodness, it's Burns night, and I've got to recite a poem at a Burns night.
Oh yes, it's Burns night today, the day we're recording, which is the 25th of January.
So she's going to a Burns night event, and she said, oh, I've been using this particular person's videos on YouTube to help with my poem that I'm reciting. So it was just like that kind of synergy, and I've had that loads of times with her. Sometimes we messaged each other in Thailand and would say kind of the same thing at the same time and cross over, or we'd say, oh my goodness, so-and-so's just playing on the radio, or I switched on the TV, and it would be somebody that we'd been talking about a few minutes earlier or something. And it was just that kind of synergy and that interconnection, which you can have with lots of people, I think, without even sort of realising it.
Yes.
I think it's a subconscious thing, and maybe we're suddenly saying this to you and you're going, oh my goodness, I have that with my friend, and I have that with my brother, or something like that.
And sometimes my experience is that it's with somebody that I'm not particularly close to, or I don't really see much of, and suddenly they'll pop in my mind. And as they pop in my mind, I think, oh my goodness, I'm going to hear from so-and-so. And within 5 or 10 minutes, I get a message or a call or whatever. And there are certain people in my life that is constantly happening with, or has constantly happened with, which again, I think shows what modern physics talks about with this quantum entanglement, that we can't avoid it. We are entangled with everyone on what I call a kind of interpsychic kind of web, the psychic internet.
No, definitely.
So
So
there we go.
Anyway, we've given you a spoiler on some of the things which are coming up, some of the little experiments that we're doing. So hopefully you will enjoy those. But in the meantime, if any of you have had similar experiences to the ones we've been talking about, do let us know. We'd love to talk to you about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, as always, for joining us and for supporting our channel. And, can I give a spoiler alert about the monthlies?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Can I? Yes? Or do you want to check out with BM?
Well, no, he's okay about it.
Are you sure?
Yes, he's okay about it.
Right.
But he said don't expect something the length of the previous programme on the same subject.
So it'll be short and concise.
Yes.
So we'll explain what it is. So basically, I had suggested to Sarah that she checks with BM whether he would do monthly forecasts of what he feels we can expect in the month ahead. So you remember we did our 2025 predictions for the year ahead. Well, this is kind of breaking it down into months. And so we are going to do one for February, aren't we? Hopefully.
Well, I imagine he's beavering away on the content now.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
as we speak.
And so that'll be probably, we will record that next Saturday, which is the 1st of February. And we will upload it and that'll be there for you to see. And we've got so many projects. It's sort of, where do we start with everything? But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And please remember, as always, to like, comment, share, subscribe. That helps with the algorithms. If you share it with friends or like-minded people, it really helps it come up on the algorithm. Because, in the future, we're going to be kind of dominated by algorithms. Algorithms will dominate, as they actually already are, our lives. And so, on that note, I'd like to say a thank you to you, Sarah, for all your interesting input today, and a thank you also to all of you, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. So bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.